All right, we can get started. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. Thank you everyone who was able to show up. This will be recorded and it'll sit on the channel just in case anyone wants to rewatch it. So this will be in two parts. We're going to be having a quick presentation where I'll be going over the basics for the application for the Paths program coming up. And then we'll have a Q&A section afterwards where everyone can put their questions in the chat, and then we'll be sure to ask our panelists, which are alumni from our Paths program. So just to start off with, what is PATHS? And PATHS stands for Program to Advance Training in Health and Sciences, with the goal to help provide students from underrepresented backgrounds to learn and apply that are going to be applying for advanced degrees such as MD, MD, PhD, and PhD, to learn a lot about preparing for their application processes. And we provide support in terms of both a curriculum and a mentoring program that goes along with it. And it is a year-long program that we use to support our students. To give a little background on our students ourselves, we usually accept between 60 to 80 undergraduates. This comes from community college, universities, and as well as post-bac programs. Um, and we're generally looking for students that are 1 to 2 years away from applying to an advanced degree of their interest, that being MD, MD, PhD, or PhD. As of this moment, we've had 4 cohorts, having us roughly 275 alumni students, 85% of which identify as URM. And to give a little bit more detail on exactly what the program is, this is a 10-month-long virtual program, completely online. It includes workshops, conversations, role models, working with role models, peers, and as well as we have, as I mentioned, a mentoring component, which I'll go to in a little more detail afterwards. And just to give a little bit more statistics on from what we've heard back from our alumni, we see that many of our past alumni have said that they found paths very helpful in their applications for their advanced degrees, and that they felt that paths was essential for reaching whatever their current position may be in their advanced degrees or in the job market. To give a brief outline on what the course actually looks like, to this day, we have roughly 1 to 2 Zoom online sessions per month. The course generally takes place between August and May, with courses usually taking place between Tuesday and Thursday, and they're at 7 p.m. Eastern time. That way, we make time also for our West Coast students to be able to go through classes or do whatever they have to do, and they can join us in the afternoon. As I mentioned, we have 3 tracks: MD, MD, PhD, and PhD. And with that, we have track specific curriculum. So, as an example, each of the tracks will have their own workshops on personal statement writing, application and interview, and career prep. But then there are core sections that we put on that all 3 of the tracks will be together for, such as imposter syndrome and managing mental health, and a few others. The mentoring program, the way that works is completely voluntary. And what we do is we actually pair each of our PATH students with one graduate student or medical student at Yale University to be with them during the entire period of their PATH program. And they will meet once a month in order to ask general advice either on the sessions or whatever their applications or whatever they may feel they may need in the future. In terms of resources that we provide immediately, we do have a welcome packet, which we include a mental health book, the individual development plan roadmap, which we build on to help you in planning for the future, and several other things at the start of our program to help you during and afterwards, as well as after graduation. You do receive a certificate if you meet the minimum requirements for being present at our sessions. You get a LinkedIn badge, and we also offer suggestions on how it is that you can incorporate your past training onto your CV for your future applications. There's a few questions always on what the timeline and eligibility looks like, and these can be found on the website. But wanted to go a little bit more in detail and reiterate on some of them. The deadline for the application is coming up. It is in 2 weeks. It is March 28th at 3 p.m. Eastern time, or 12 p.m. noon on the West Coast. You will be notified of your acceptance by the end of May. The program, as we mentioned, starts in August, and it will go all the way until near mid-May of 2025. To be eligible, we look for students that are underrepresented in science, and that can be a spectrum, whether that means through race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, low income, just however it is that you feel unrepresented in science is it's really up to you to be able to tell us what it is that you feel the PATH program will be able to help you with. You mentioned applying within 1 to 2 years. We do allow people that will be applying this upcoming fall cycle to be part of the PASS program. We do let them know that there may be some sections that either we're covering too early, too late for them at times, because we are planning on students having a little bit more time after PASS to be focusing on applications. But we do and have had students taking paths at the same time they're in the middle of their applications and interview process, and they still found it incredibly helpful. We do say that you be applying to U.S. schools, and that's only because that way we know we're up to date with all the information we are providing. And we do ask for U.S. citizens, residents, international DACA students. Essentially, anyone should be able to apply to the program. Perfectly fine for us. I do get some questions on the application essays that you have to do for the program. There are 5 different essays that for statement of interest, diversity inclusion, commitment to future advanced degrees, seeking and applying feedback, and academic self-assessment. So I wanted to go a little bit more on detail on exactly what we're looking for in each of these. For statement of interest, what we're really looking for is you being able to describe how essential, why you feel PASS is essential for your personal and professional growth. Really having a lot of internal reflection on what is it that is missing in terms of your professional development that Paths is able to provide. For diversity and inclusion, what we really wanted, as we talked about, is how it is that you feel being underrepresented in science. And that is entirely up to you how it is that you feel, and being able to describe that. Commitment to future advanced degrees. So in this case, we do want individuals that are committed to continuing it on towards MD, PhD, and PhD. So we want a well thought out idea of why it is these degrees are essential for your growth and your development, what you plan to do with them, and that you've thought of what the process would be like. Seeking and applying feedback. In this case, we really want to focus on concrete examples. We want specific examples of a time that you received feedback, how you then went about incorporating it and improving for the future. So that's really what we want to see is a specific concrete example. I cannot emphasize that enough. And then also for academic self-assessment, we want a lot real internal reflection on what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what can be improved on, and what do you also feel you are strong in. I really want to emphasize, really wanted to heavily emphasize that. And lastly, a few of other things that we ask for, as we mentioned, we do ask for a recommendation form. We do not want a recommendation letter. I cannot emphasize that enough. The way we review applicants, if we get a recommendation letter, we will not be able to view it. We ask for a recommendation form. Please send the form to your recommender. And your recommender will fill out the essays similar to the ones that you actually completed. In this case, coachability, commitment to advanced degree, academic self-assessment, and demonstration of need. So in this case, the only one that is missing from the 5 essays that you complete is diversity and inclusion. We do ask also for your CV and resume. CV is preferred. We found that to be better in terms of getting all the information in there, but we will accept resume if that's what you have. And additionally, transcript. So with that, reaching the end of my part of the presentation, and I will be passing it off to our PATHS alumni to talk a little bit about their experiences going through PATHS. So if they can turn on their cameras, we'll be able to begin.
All right, thank you both for being here. Would you mind introducing yourselves to the panelists or to the viewers?
Yeah, I think I can go. Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Begay. I am a non-traditional student. Basically, I've been out of undergrad for a few years now, and I applied to PATHS, and I completed the program, I think, for 2022. And I currently live in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is the northern part of Colorado. Um, I'm currently a research assistant at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus, and I really I really applied to Paths to get mentorship and guidance on the MD PhD track, and the application process for that.
Thank you. Let's see if um, Alyssa's.
We could probably just go on to the questions while Alyssa connects.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Let's start with Renee. You already talked a little bit about what made you apply to Paths, but could you tell us either a little bit more about that and also when do you think the best time to apply to this program is?
Yeah, so I think the best time to apply is really anytime you're in the process, ideally 1 to 2 years out from your application submission. I was about 2 years out, so I decided to apply for the Yale Paths program, which I didn't even know was a program until I got an email through my university graduate listserv, and they sent around opportunities to students. And I just decided, this looked like the right program for me. And I was really looking for a mentorship, which is what the Yale Paths program was providing, and looking at the application process. And what I really liked about the Paths program is that they pair you up with a current student who's in the program that you're currently looking into. So an MD program, PhD program, or MD, PhD. And I got paired up with a really great person who I didn't see as a traditional MD PhD person because they were really doing a PhD in policy, but really like the healthcare side of things. And so they, to me, kind of seem more of a non-traditional MD PhD person. And so I really like that aspect and getting to know somebody who's not really doing the traditional route where they're really in the laboratory doing biomedical research and things like that. So I really enjoyed that part of the PASS program.
Great. Thank you for sharing. And then can I ask, how was the application process for you? How did you prepare all of the materials for the application?
Well, for me, I really take the approach of I just have like a Dropbox or whatever folder organizational tools that you have. I really have a Dropbox where I put, just like what things I apply for, and I really approached it like a scholarship application, right? When you apply for scholarships, you have to have an essay, your grades, your letters of rec, and just really talking about why you want scholarship or what's your path been like. And so I think the past application was pretty much this in this similar vein. And I think for me, I think I would give advice to students saying that you really need to put your passion forward and what it is that you really want out of the program, because I think the PASS program is very unique and they really want students who are very passionate about the track that they're on. And so I really put my foot forward in that aspect, and I really said, I really want to do an MD PhD, and this is the reason why. I really had a really clean statement where I just knew the road that I was going on, and that was the path for me and what I wanted from the PASS program. And I think that's important to say, what you need from a program like this, because they will give you all kinds of things. But I think they're looking for students who are very driven, and know what they want. So I think for me, I just really stayed organized, worked on my essay weekly until I was ready to submit it and edit it frequently as well, and shared it with, I think, one other person while I was drafting my essays.
Great. Elisa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry everyone. I had some Wi-Fi connection issues, but I'm back. So I am Elisa. I am originally from Puerto Rico. I graduated from University of Puerto Rico Mayagüez in 2022, and I have now been accepted into MD PhD programs. And I was in PATS while I was doing my gap years in working in research, and it really helped me for that application process and eventually getting accepted.
Great. Could you tell us a little bit about what made you apply to pass and then how that application process went for you?
So I applied to PATS because I didn't really have any guidance on the application process for what MD PhD was going to be like. So I had some friends in the program in the one of the first cohorts, and I saw they had an incredible experience, and I wanted that kind of one-on-one mentorship, especially because when I applied to undergrad, I don't feel like I had it, and I didn't want the same thing to happen for my graduate school applications. So I was very, very nervous about applying to MD PhD programs and like not doing it right. So I wanted to make sure I got the right information and had everything that I needed for that. And for applying to PATS, the process was like I was just starting my research assistantship at Harvard Medical School and Massachusetts General Hospital, and I my PI helped me fill out the application. He actually wrote me a recommendation form for the program. And yeah, I remember being nervous because I had applied to other mentorship programs and had not gotten in, and I really wanted to get into this program. So I was very nervous about submitting the essays, but I asked for feedback, and it was like the first time that I had people actually read my essays for applying somewhere. And so that's what it was like for me. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'll open this up for both of you. What is a piece of advice that you would recommend to the people who are thinking about applying to paths?
Um, well, I can go first. I would say to be honest, be specific in your essays, provide examples. Like Stephen was saying, they want you to be teachable, and that's going to really influence on like how you can take the feedback that helps you for your application process. So yeah, that's something that I would say. And be yourself, be honest, and yeah, be specific in your essays, and be come with an open mind, because you're gonna meet incredible people that are gonna push you to be your best.
I would just say apply to the program, even if you're on the fence about it. I I wasn't sure because once you hear the name Yale, you think, oh, it's very prestigious and oh, I won't be able to get in, or will they really be able to give me the guidance and mentorship that's needed? Um, is this a real program? Like, I had all these doubts and about myself and whether I could, be mentored by Yale. And so I just put in my application, I put my best foot forward. And if you're on the fence, I would just say just apply and see what happens. I think a lot of people had that kind of mentality when once we got together as a cohort, it sounded like everybody was like, I didn't know I could get in. I just tried, I did my best. And it turned out for the better for a lot of the students that got accepted.
Great. Yeah, I really encourage everyone to apply. Um, can you share something that you've learned in the PATS program and how you've benefited from the program?
well, I can go first. For me, it was particularly helpful that they broke down the components of the application and what each essay should contain, and especially also the recommendation letters. Based on what I learned in class, I sent a document to my recommenders for MD PhD programs to like specific things that there would be the programs would be looking for that I thought that they should emphasize. And I got most of that information from Pat's, and even the idea to do that came from like how we were talking about recommendation letters in Pat's. So I'm super grateful for that. And then yeah, I felt like I understood all the parts of the application process, and that nothing really took me by surprise, which helped me like do better in interviews and also like presenting myself, and also how to approach the feedback that I received on my essays, etc. It was helpful like all around.
I think the thing that I learned through PATS is just that there's a lot of people who are in your corner who want you to do well. I think it's, applying for medical school and just PhD, graduate school, like the higher education, it can be lonely. And you can feel like, well, I'm the only one doing this, and nobody else is, having these struggles and thinking, you're not good enough to be where you are. But I think just getting that acceptance into the Yale Paths program kind of was that first step forward of, you belong. And the mentor that I was paired with made me really feel like, it's, my dreams and my passion of what I want to do is valid. And I think just getting that confidence boost from that mentor and from the community in Paths just made me feel like, I wasn't crazy for trying to do an MD PhD or trying to apply to this kind of like prestigious 8-year program and so on. So I just think that for me, I think because I've been out of undergrad for a few years now, I've had time to digest what the application looks like. So for me, I didn't need a lot of the application components specifically, but I really wanted that community and wanted that mentorship and guidance and just somebody to say, you know what, like your application looks good. Like, you have what it takes. So keep going. And I think that was very valuable for me.
And adding on what you're saying, on the getting the acceptance from Paths was also huge validation for me. I also had that experience. I had a lot of imposter syndrome of like getting opportunities through like networking, etc. So like getting what you were saying, like also the name Yale weighs a lot on it. So getting that type of feedback and validation from an organized program that you applied through with your essays and recommendation is also very I feel like it also gave me the confidence for my application process.
Yeah, no, that's really great and very important. You both kind of touched on this already, but can you elaborate a little bit more about the community that Paths provided you and how that support has been instrumental in your path forward?
I don't know if I can say too much more. Unfortunately, this is a virtual program, so it was pretty much difficult to get to know some of the other scholars in the program and really get a feel for like who they are and what's their background. But I think it was just really cool just to see a lot of them being from underrepresented backgrounds and seeing that diversity and knowing that, I'm Native American, I am from the Navajo Nation. And so there's not a lot of natives that are in these kinds of programs or just in general. So it's always nice for me to see others who are people of color and just to feel a little bit more like, this is my community and I belong. So I think that was the one thing that I kind of took away from it, was just the diversity in which the Yale Pass accept all these, students who are coming from all kinds of backgrounds. And when I did get to chat with some of the students, some of them were dealing with having to have, working, and then, taking classes and trying to do this application. And so everybody was just across the board, just trying to work through it and work hard and build each other up. So.
Yeah, for me, I also think it was a bit hard to connect because of the virtual part of the program, but I agree that even seeing that many people wanting to do this type of degree, when like I decided I wanted to do an MD PhD, like I didn't have friends that wanted to do an MD PhD, so it was like seeing other people that wanted to do this and that were motivated also gave me that sense of like not being alone. And what you're saying about the fact that like the diversity in the program, you usually like there's a lot of MD PhD programs that you look to, or PhD programs or MD programs that are all white people, and that can be very discouraging, that like that's the only type of people that get into these programs. So seeing a program that's so diverse and so committed to helping students like us get into these um, programs and positions is really meaningful too. And also not only the students, but the faculty of the program, like the mentors, Stephen, Joanna, are like, it's exciting to come back and tell them like, yeah, I got into MD PhD. Oh my God, it looks so far away when I got into PATS, and like that longitudinal support and group of people that you can come back to and like you can celebrate with, or like if things are not going as well, like receive feedback from. It's just like a long life kind of thing, which I really enjoy. And I think it shows how committed the program is to the growth of the students.
Thank you both so much for sharing your experience with the paths. I encourage any of the viewers to submit any questions to the chat so we can ask our panelists. But in the meantime, do either of you have anything that you feel you didn't get to share that you'd like to mention to any prospective applicants, or anything else you'd like to add?
Um, I don't know, like I would emphasize like just be yourself, reach out if you have questions, and if you do get accepted, make the most out of it. Try to connect with everyone as much as you can and make yourself known. That's the best way to build a community and like to build a space for yourself to succeed and for people to actually know how to help you. So yeah, be vocal and communicate when you're applying, and also when you're in the program.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think it's easy for me because my tendency is just to be in the background, especially when, there's a webinar going on and you're like, oh, I'll get my answer or my question answered at some point down the road. But I think I really encourage you all, if you get into paths, to ask questions every webinar, get in the chat, raise your hand, speak up, and really ask your questions, because sure enough, there's probably going to be somebody else in the crowd who's going to be asking themselves the same question and being like, oh, I'm too scared to ask that. But that's what the PATH program is for. They're there to answer your questions. And if they don't have the answers, they'll get back to you. And a mentor did that for me as well. I would be like, okay, well, I have this question. And then they would be like, I don't know, but I'll reach out to PATHs. I'll coordinate with you. I'll get back to you. And I think I really like that follow through from PATHs. They really were able to answer my questions and didn't make me feel like, oh, that's a question you shouldn't be asking. No, they really were like, go ahead, ask your questions, even if we have to, say it again, mention it again. And so just really utilize the program as much as possible and the people who are running it.
Great. Yeah, those are both great bits of advice. got one question in the chat about what are some types of, or what are some tips to stand out on your application?
Um, for like, I think Stephen could also answer this question if he wants to, but I would say um like show that you're teachable. That's um in my opinion like what passes for like if you can show that you um are open to mentorship, like that you will make the most out of this program, and how you think it will help you and how you're open for it to helping you, and like demonstrate with examples of moments that you were teachable, especially on the feedback essay. um that's my opinion, but yeah, I don't um, read the essays, so I think that Stephen can also.
Yeah, all I would say is really emphasize on what was said, just because be as specific as possible. Um, for all the questions like we ask you, oh, like as an example, a demonstration of need, why it is that paths would be essential. Try to avoid saying things like, oh, paths would be essential because it provides these opportunities. Like, yes, but what, like, why? What specifically about paths? What specifically is missing in your development that you feel that paths would benefit you? Try to be as specific, because it makes us feel like you've really thought through not just why it is you would want to go to paths, but also you visualize how it is that paths is directly going to affect you moving forward. Just so that'd be my biggest is be as specific as possible. We want to know that you've thought this out of this is a step that you want to take, and we're here to help you. And the more specific you can be, the more I know how to help you.
Great. We got another question. What is your favorite workshop from PATS?
I can go. I remember the workshop where we had MDPH students from Yale who were on a panel. It was very informal. It wasn't really your typical, panelists, and the setup was not formal at all. And they introduced themselves, they said how they got into MD PhD programs, and we just went back and forth with questions like Q&A for like a good hour and 15 minutes. It felt like a long time, but a lot of the questions that came out of that panel, I was thinking, and I was like, wait, how did you do that? Or why was your essay written like that? Or how much research did you do? Like, I think a lot of students who are going into higher education, a lot of times they want to know the nitty-gritty details. And I think that panel was able to really get at, this is how I did my essay, this is how much time it took me, this is how many letters of rec I got. Like I was really scared I wasn't going to get in because of my grades or something along those lines, but they were just very real and honest, and I really appreciated that. So I really enjoyed that panel. I think it was the MD PhD panelists.
For me, as I mentioned, like the most helpful part of paths for me was like the application part of it, of like how to build my applications. So all the sessions that were like those nitty gritty, like how to write your MD PhD personal statement, like the statement, how to write your personal statement, the letters of recommendation and everything, and not just the sessions, but them being recorded and being able to watch back in the middle of my application process was particularly helpful. And the fact that I like being able to ask like the questions that were specific to me, that I hadn't been able to like are not in the FAQ section online or are not easy to find on Google, just like being able to ask them and get answers that I know that are like trustworthy, that I can go off on. So definitely it's particularly for me in my experience it was that.
Great. Okay, another question. What were some things that you did to get closer to your mentor, and how did the PASS program help you engage more with the community?
I think for the mentor piece, they give you a document beforehand it's actually pretty well thought out. It's like little sections where it's sort of a survey where they ask you how frequently do you want to meet with your mentor, what days, how do you like to communicate? Is it like through text, email, phone calls? I think it was kind of a way to figure out how you want to communicate with your mentor and how your mentor can communicate with you. And for some reason, it felt like they really understood who I was as a mentee. I don't know if it was because of my essay or because of what I said I wanted out of a mentor, but I really feel like they paired me well with this person. And so I really encourage you to really think about what kind of mentor you really need. You know, is it a mentor who's more hands-off, more hands-on, somebody who's extrovert, introvert like, or is there a specific background that you're thinking? You know, hey, I really want mentorship from somebody who has a specific, you know, PhD background or MD background. And so I think that the survey pieces in the beginning really helped set up who my mentor was going to be. And so I think Paths does that really well.
Yeah, I would echo that too. I feel like that's what really makes you like having the set of expectations, also with the mentor, and like I don't know, like it was very clear from the beginning of how we should approach that relationship and like set those clear expectations and even um what they're asking about what you're asking about community, the the breakout rooms also like even being virtually like we would give each other tips on personal statements and everything. So it's also like we are helping each other out, which I feel like is also very healthy because this process can be very competitive. So building a community of people that are going through the same thing and might have similar insecurities to you, and like we can help out each other instead of bringing each other down. So I think that also engaging us ourselves, like engaging, that was redundant, but engaging us in the process as well, and not just like having a hierarchy of like, no, I'm the mentor, so um, or like someone who is directing the conversation or facilitating the conversation. It's not a hierarchy of like they're the only ones who can give out that type of advice. Like the breakout rooms put it like really in a leveled um, situation for me. And I thought that was really cool.
Okay, great. Thank you both again for sharing your experiences. I think that's it for the questions in the chat. But please, if anyone else has any uh, questions, please send them. But otherwise, I'll pass it back to you, Stephen.
I wanted to thank both of our panelists for taking the time out of the busy schedule to come and give us their experience. We loved having them, so it's good to always hear that they loved us as well. And thank you everyone who was here to listen to the presentations, listen to our panelists. And I'll let everyone get back to their day, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you for everything and for having us and everyone who joined. And yeah, don't hesitate to reach out with any more questions.
Yeah, thank you. Okay,